Next topic is National Legal Services Authority (NALSA). First, Article 39A provides for free legal aid to the poor and weaker section of society and ensures justice for all. Second, established under Legal Service Authorities Act 1987, NALSA aims to provide free legal aid to weaker sections of society and organize Lok Adalats for speedy dispute resolution. Third, organizational structure. The Chief Justice of India serves as the patron-in-chief, while the second senior-most Supreme Court judge functions as executive chairman. Fourth, NALSA organizes Lok Adalat at various levels to enable amicable settlement of disputes through conciliation and compromise. Fifth, it conducts legal literacy initiative to educate people about their rights and the availability of legal aid services. Number 6. Between 2022 and 23 and 2024-25, more than 44.22 lakh people received free legal aid and advice. Coming to the Lok Adalats. Lok Adalat means People's Court. It is an alternative dispute resolution mechanism based on Gandhian principles. It allows for amicable settlement of disputes. Coming to the history of Lok Adalat. The first Lok Adalat was held in 1982 at Una, Gujarat, under the guidance of Justice Bhagwati. Second, it gained legal status through Legal Services Authority Act 1987. Third, in 2002, the Act was amended to establish permanent Lok Adalats (PLA) for public utility services like electricity and water. Coming to the key recent and accurate data 2025-26. Number 1. From 2022-23 to 24-25, more than 23.5 crore cases were settled through national, state and permanent Lok Adalat. Second, out of total settlements in 2025, over 80% were pre-litigation matters. Coming to the key features and jurisdiction of Lok Adalat. First, awards are final and hold the same enforceability as civil court decree. Second, no requirement for lawyers. Parties can represent themselves. Third, affordability. No court fees are charged. Fourth, flexibility procedure. Strict civil procedural laws and evidence rules do not apply. Fifth, scope of cases. Can resolve dispute in both pending and pre-litigation matters, including matrimonial and family disputes, compoundable criminal case, land acquisition dispute, labor and workmen compensation cases, bank recovery cases, etc. Sixth, enjoy jurisdiction over compoundable criminal cases. Coming to the Gram Nyayalay. Gram Nyalays or village courts are established under Gram Nyalay Act 2008 for speedy and easy access to the justice system uh, in the rural areas of India. There are 476 Gram Nyalays notified by 15 states in India, out of which 258 are operational in 10 states. Coming to the challenges in India's legal aid delivery. Number 1. Policy inconsistency. Frequent leadership changes at NALSA and SLSA cause fragmented implementation and lack of long-term planning. Second, budgetary constraints. India's legal aid spending is only 4.5 paise per capita annually in 2022-23. It was given by India Justice Report. Coming to the third point, lack of incentive for lawyers. Lawyers refrain from pro bono work due to low fee caps and nominal honorariums, that is around 1500 to 7500. Fourth, lack of specialization. Generalist lawyers often lack the specific training required for sensitive cases like POXO or atrocities. Fifth, social stigma. Distrust of state institutions and social pressure discourage marginalized victims from seeking legal help. Sixth, low awareness levels. Despite over 80% eligibility, only 15 million people have used legal aid since 1995. Seventh, inadequate outreach. Legal campaigns are often urban centric and fail to account for regional dialects or vulnerabilities. Eighth, poor outcome tracking. That is, evaluation focuses on number of cases rather than user satisfaction or judicial quality. Ninth, challenges faced by Lok Adalats. Number 1, limited power and procedural constraints. Second, inability to compel parties to appear, leading to delays. Third, insufficient infrastructure, resources, and training. Next, 10th, underutilization of paralegal volunteers, lack of comprehensive training, resources, and fair compensation for paralegal volunteers. Number 11, shortage of staff and unfilled vacancies affects operational efficiencies. Coming to the way forward, number 1, scale capacity building, enhance judicial academy programs to build subject expertise and sensitivity towards vulnerable marginalized group. Second, incentivize performance, introduce performance linked honorariums and clear evaluation metrics to improve the quality of legal representation. Number 3, expand literacy partnership. Use regional bodies and multimedia platform to bridge linguistic barriers and deepen legal awareness. Number 4, leverage digital media, that is, utilize streaming platforms and coordination broadcasts to reach wider audiences with targeted legal information. Number 5, strengthen institutional synergy, that is, foster collaboration between the judiciary, executive, and civil society for smoother referral and rehabilitation. Number 6, shift to outcome based metrics, that is, implement user feedback system and quality audits to measure actual fairness and litigant satisfaction. Number 7, launch legal literacy campaign and promote active use of paralegal volunteers. Number 8, establish clear protocols to ensure free, informed, and voluntary consent. Number 9, regular training of judges, conciliators, and legal service personnel. Number 10, expand e-Lok Adalat and link settlements with National Judicial Data Grid. 11th, establish permanent Lok Adalat in all districts. Coming to the difference between Lok Adalats and Arbitration Tribunal, Lok Adalats are governed by Legal Service Authorities Act, whereas arbitration tribunals are governed by Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Second, primarily Lok Adalats are primarily conciliatory and informal, focuses on amicable compromise, whereas arbitration tribunals are adjudicatory and quasi-judicial, focuses on winner-loser legal decision. Next, Lok Adalat usually includes a presiding officer, that is, sitting or retired judge, an advocate, and a social worker, whereas arbitration tribunal comprises one or more arbitrators appointed by the parties, often experts or retired judges. Next, Lok Adalat can entertain civil cases as well as minor criminal cases that are compoundable offences, whereas arbitration tribunals exclusively handle civil and commercial disputes. It cannot entertain any criminal case. Lok Adalat's decision is based primarily purely on compromise and settlement between the parties, whereas tribunal decision is based on legal principles, evidence, and terms of contract between parties. For Lok Adalat, no court fees is charged. If a court fee was previously paid, it is refunded upon settlement. Whereas for arbitration tribunal, parties must bear the arbitrator's fees and administrative costs, which can be expensive. Next, Lok Adalat award is final and non-appealable in any court of law, whereas arbitral award is final but can be challenged in court under specific legal grounds. Lok Adalat often initiated by court or through pre-litigation application, whereas arbitration tribunals based strictly on pre-existing arbitration clause or agreement between the parties. Coming to the tribunals. Tribunals are either judicial or quasi-judicial bodies established by an act of parliament or a state legislature under Article 323A and 323B as facilitated by the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. The Income Tax Appellate Tribunal was established as the first tribunal in India in 1941. First, composition. Tribunal consists of both judicial and technical members, making them distinct from traditional courts. Second, Chandra Kumar case 1997. The Supreme Court ruled that appeals against tribunal decisions should be heard by a division bench of concerned High Court. Number 3. The Administrative Tribunal Act 1985 and Tribunal Reforms Act 2021 and its ongoing 2025-26 revisions govern their structure and functioning. Coming to the classification. Number 1. Administrative tribunals are Central Administrative Tribunal, State Administrative Tribunal, Joint Administrative Tribunal. Other tribunals like National Green Tribunal, Armed Force Tribunals, Foreigner Tribunals, which determine whether a person is or is not foreigner under Foreigners Act 1946. Number D. National Company Law Tribunal, established under Companies Act 2013. Telecom Dispute Settlement and Appellate Tribunal, etc. Supreme Court has directed the Union Government to establish the National Tribunal Commission to oversee all tribunals. In major tribunals like NCLT, nearly 88% of the staff, that is 382 out of 434, were working on a temporary or contractual basis. Third, Armed Force Tribunal recorded over 21,000 pending cases. Coming to the significance. Number 1. Specialized technical expertise. Benches consist of both judicial and technical members to handle complex domain-specific issues. Number 2. Reduction of court burden. Example, ITAT, that is Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, resolves the majority of tax disputes, preventing the High Court from being overwhelmed. Number 3. Speedy dispute resolution. Example, the NCLT is mandated to resolve corporate insolvency cases within a strict 180 to 270 day window. Number 4. Cost effective justice. Lower court fees and simplified filing make them accessible for individuals and small businesses. Number 5. Accessibility. Example, the National Green Tribunal has 5 zonal benches, that is Bhopal, Pune, Kolkata, Chennai and Delhi, to ensure regional coverage. Number 6. Flexibility and informality. They follow the principles of natural justice rather than a rigid evidence act, ensuring fairness. Number 7. Alternative to writ jurisdiction. They act as the court of first instance for specialized matters as per the L. Chandra Kumar ruling. Number 8. Sector specific regulation. They help in the smooth functioning of core sectors like telecom, electricity, and real estate. Number 9. Insolvency and bankruptcy success. Tribunals have revolutionized debt recovery through the IBC 2016 framework. Example, recoveries through NCLT have surpassed 3 lakh crore rupees. Coming to the issues. Number 1. Lack of independence. Tribunals are under administrative control of the line ministry. Second, high pendency rates. Tribunals have over 5 lakh cases pending. Number 3. High vacancy rates due to prolonged delay in appointing members. Uh, Justice jammed. This is infographic in which pending trials before top tribunals. In debt recovery tribunal, there are 2,33,901 cases pending. In customs and excise, it is 71,454. CAT In CAT it has 69,102. In ITAT 42,502. SAT it is 28,000. Appellate tribunals SFEMA have 12,498, and Railways Claims Tribunal it has 10,570 as of November 2025. Coming to number 4, tribunalization of justice. This is another issue. Tribunals diminish the authority of regular courts, violating the principle of separation of powers. Number 5, judicial overreach. Example, the Supreme Court's intervention in the TDSAT ruling on the Adjusted Gross Revenue (AGR). Number 6, the retired judges syndrome. Reliance on retired judges aged 62 plus is criticized for lacking fresh energy and technical adaptability. Number 7, short tenure of members. A 4-year tenure was seen as too short to gain domain mastery. Supreme Court recently restored a 5-year minimum tenure. Number 8, overlapping jurisdiction. Tribunals often have overlapping jurisdictions, leading to confusion and inefficiency. Example, COMPAT and NCLT. Number 9, infrastructure deficiency. Many tribunals operate out of rented building with no digital infrastructure or library facilities. Number 10, over 70% of the NCLAT orders are challenged in the Supreme Court, defeating the speedy resolution goal. Number 11, secondary role. Supreme Court in Chandrakumar versus Union of India clarified that tribunals were intended to perform a substituting, not supplementary role in adjudicating service-related matters. Coming to the Tribunals Reform Act of 2021, uh, it abolished 9 appellate tribunals, transferring their cases directly to the High Court. Number 2, it set the term of office for chairperson and member at 4 years. Third, it mandated that person must be at least 50 years old to be appointed. Fourth, search cum selection committee headed by CJI or a nominee with a casting vote to recommend 2 names per vacancy, giving the executive the final choice. Number 5, mandated appointments within 3 months of the committee's recommendation. Next, coming to major Supreme Court judgments on tribunals. Number 1, Tribunal Reforms Act case, November 2025. The Supreme Court struck down several sections of the 2021 Act as unconstitutional. It struck down number 1, minimum age requirement of 50 years. Second, it struck down 4-year tenure. Supreme Court mandated minimum 5. Third, it struck down search cum selection committee to recommend 2 names for each vacancy. Supreme Court mandated only 1 name recommendation. Number 4, service conditions equivalent to civil servants. It was repealed and Supreme Court mandated equal to High Court judge. Now coming to another case, that is Madras Bar Association versus Union of India 2021. Selection committee must have judicial dominance to protect separation of power. Number 3, L. Chandrakumar versus Union of India 1997 established that tribunals are not substitutes for High Court and decisions are subject to the writ jurisdiction of High Courts. Article 226 and 227. Coming to the way forward. Number 1, impartial member selection. Implementing recommendation from the 272 Law Commission of India to reduce government involvement. Number 2, timely filling of vacancies. Number 3, way forward is create the National Tribunal Commission as an independent umbrella body for all tribunals. Number 4, financial autonomy. Funding should be charged on Consolidated Fund of India. Number 5, zonal benches. Establish regional benches for all major tribunals to ensure access to justice. Number 6, mandatory training. 3-month judicial training program for new technical members. Number 7. Enact a Tribunals Procedure Act to bring uniformity across all adjudicatory bodies. Number 8. Adopt the UK first tier and upper tribunal model, which has a unified administrative structure and clear career path for members. Number 9. Fully digitalize tribunal processes through an e-tribunal initiative. Coming to the next topic, that is contempt of court. Contempt of court refers to any act that disrespects or challenges the authority, integrity, or dignity of a court. It includes defying court orders, witness tampering, withdrawing evidence, or non compliance with judicial requests. Coming to key fact and provisions. Number 1. Article 129 empowers the Supreme Court as a court of record with the authority to punish for contempt. Article 215 grants similar powers to High Court. Number 2. Article 19 subclause 2. It includes contempt of court as a reasonable restriction. Number 3. Contempt of Court Act 1971 provides the statutory framework defining types of contempt, procedures and punishments. Number 4. Contempt of Court Amendment Act 2006 introduced truth as a valid defense if it is in the public interest and made bona fide. Number 5. Civil contempt, that is willful disobedience of court's judgment, decree, order or direction, or breach of an undertaking given to the court. Number 6. Criminal contempt includes publication or acts that scandalizes the court or lower its authority. Number 2. Interfere with judicial proceedings or obstructs justice. Number 3. Obstructs the administration of justice in any other manner. Number 7. Punishment up to 6 months of simple imprisonment or a fine up to 2000 or both. Coming to the court cases. Number 1. Prashant Bhushan case to 2020. The Supreme Court held that tweets criticizing the CJI scandalized the court and undermined the dignity of institutions. Number 2. Shanmugam at Lakshmi Narayan versus Madras High Court 2025. Contempt powers are meant to protect the administration of justice, not to shield judges from individual criticism. Number 3. Justice C.S. Karnan case 2017. The first time a sitting High Court judge was sentenced to imprisonment for contempt. Number 4. M.V. Jayarajan versus High Court of Kerala 2015. The Supreme Court held that using abusive language in public speeches while criticizing a court amounts to criminal contempt. Coming to the need of contempt of court. Number 1. Ensuring compliance. It ensures court orders are not ignored by the executive or powerful private entities. Example: civil contempt is used to enforce maintenance payment in matrimonial disputes. Number 2. Deterrence against perjury. That is, discourages parties from filing false affidavit or fabricated evidence. Example: criminal contempt for submitting forged land records in property suits. Number 3. Protecting witnesses. Contempt powers are used to punish those who threaten witnesses in high profile criminal trials like the Lakhimpur Kheri case. Number 4. Maintaining courtroom decorum. It allows judges to manage disruptive behavior during hearing or ensure an orderly trial process. Number 5. Curbing media trials. It prevents sensationalist reporting from prejudicing the mind of judges or the public during active trials. Number 6. Safeguarding judicial independence. It protects judges from malicious political attacks intended to influence their decision making process. Number 7. Preventing procedural obstruction. Punishes officers who intentionally delay implementation of time bound judicial directive. Example: contempt petition against chief secretaries. Number 8. Upholding public confidence. Example: in Arundhati Roy case, the Supreme Court found her in contempt for statements that were perceived to erode public confidence in the judiciary. Number 9. Protection of subordinate courts. The Act empowers High Court to punish contempt of subordinate courts, ensuring the smooth functioning of lower judiciary. Coming to the criticism of contempt of court, number one, chilling effect on speech. That is, fear of contempt leads to self censorship among journalists, activists, and legal academics. Number two, against right to dissent under Article 19 and 21. Number three, vague definition. The term scandalizing the court is highly subjective and depends on judges' individual sensitivity. Number 4. Conflict of interest. Judiciary acts as the accuser, prosecutor, and judge, simultaneously violating the fundamental principle of natural justice. Number 5. Lack of accountability. The judiciary's power to punish for contempt without adequate checks can lead to arbitrary decisions. Number 6. Colonial anachronism. The concept was abolished in the UK in 2013, yet India continues to use this monarchical tool. Number 7. Inconsistent punishment. The lack of standardized sentencing policy leads to disparities in penalties for similar offences. Number 8. Obsolete majesty concept. In modern democracy, institutional respect should be earned through performance, not enforced by fear. Number 9. Subjective truth defense. Even with 2006 amendment, the burden of proving bona fide intent remains prohibitively difficult for whistleblowers. Coming to the way forward, number one, abolish scandalizing the court. That is, follow the UK's Crime and Court Act 2013 and limit criminal contempt to obstruction of justice only. Number two, the clear and present danger test. Adopt the US standard where contempt is only invoked if the speech poses an immediate threat to a fair trial. Number 3. Codifying fair criticism. Explicitly define what constitutes academic, journalistic, or legal critique to provide a safe harbor for citizens. Number 4. Ensure that contempt cases are resolved within 6 months. Number 5. Mandatory mediation before punitive action for civil contempt. Number 6. Create an independent committee to assist the Attorney General in deciding contempt permissions to ensure non-partisanship. Number 7. Strengthening the judicial standards and accountability framework can reduce the need for defensive contempt laws. Coming to the next topic, sealed cover jurisprudence. Jurisprudence. It refers to the practice where executive submits sensitive information to the judiciary in sealed envelope, accessible only to the judges and not to the opposing party. Recent news. Following the full implementation of Media One guidelines, courts have replaced sealed covers with public interest immunity claims, where a redacted summary of evidence must be shared with the petitioner. Number 2. The Apex Court recently reprimanded the Enforcement Directorate for routinely handing over case diaries in sealed covers during bail hearings, calling it violation of Article 21. Coming to the major cases, number 1, Pegasus spyware case 2021. The Supreme Court refused to accept a limited affidavit in a sealed cover from the center. Number 2, Rafale fighter jet deal. It accepted pricing details in a sealed cover, citing the Official Secrets Act. Third, Bhima Koregaon case. Accepted uh, while evidence in sealed cover to deny bail to activists. Number 4. BCCI reforms case. The Mudgal committee submitted names of cricketers suspected of match fixing in a sealed cover to protect their reputation during the probe. Number 5. INX Media Case 2019. The Supreme Court criticized the Delhi High Court for denying bail to P. Chidambaram based solely on document produced by the ED in a sealed cover. Coming to the justification of sealed cover jurisprudence. Number 1. Protecting national security. It safeguards classified military or intelligence data. Number two, investigation integrity. Prevents the tipping off of suspects or the destruction of evidence. Number three, privacy of individuals. It protects the reputation and dignity of persons. Number four, protecting in identity of informants. Number five, diplomatic sensitivity. Example, terms of sovereign guarantees in international defense contract. Number five, economic stability. Example, data regarding distressed assets in major bank. Number seven, protection of victim in sensitive cases like POXO. Number 8. Complying with Official Secrets Act and Section 123 of the Evidence Act. Coming to the criticism of sealed covered jurisprudence. Number 1. Violation of natural justice. It violates the right to be heard, that is, audi alteram partem. Number 2. Lack of transparency. Violates justice must be seen to be done principle. Number 3. There is no codified law for its use, leaving it to the ad hoc discretion of individual judges. Number 4. Erosion of judicial reasoning. Number 5. The 2025 Media Freedom Index cited sealed covers as major threat to independent journalism in India. Number 6. Interference with fair trial. Withholding of evidence from accused. Number 7. Undermining accountability of executive. Example, Pegasus case. Number 8. Democratic decay. Coming to the way forward. Number 1. Appointment of amicus curiae. Appoint an independent lawyer to see the sealed cover and argue on behalf of the absent party. Number 2. Redacted disclosures mandate the state to provide redacted summaries that remove sensitive names but keep the gist of the allegations clear. Number 3. Amend the Supreme Court Rules 2013 to define strict narrow categories where sealed covers are permissible. Number 4. The proportionality test. Apply the Puttaswamy 2017 test to ensure that secrecy is the least restrictive measure possible to achieve the goal. Number 5. In camera hearing. Coming to the judicial recusal in India. In Delhi liquor policy case, a recusal plea was raised against Justice Swarnakant Sarma, citing perceived ideological bias. Judicial recusal is the act of judge voluntarily abstaining from participating in a legal proceeding because of a conflict of interest or a reasonable apprehension that they cannot remain impartial. It flows from two foundational maxims of laws. First, nemo judex in causa sua, that is, no one shall be a judge in their own cause. Number two, justice must not only be done, but it must also be seen to be done. Coming to the provision uh, and procedures in India. Number one, there is no codified law. Unlike the US 28 US Code 455, India has no statutory law governing recusal. It is governed by judicial conventions and precedents. Number two, restatement of values of judicial life. It forbids a judge from deciding a case where they hold a pecuniary interest unless the concerned parties have no objections. It is non-binding. Number 3. Constitutional oath, derived from the third schedule, where judges swear to perform duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will. The number 4. Two types. First is automatic. The judge withdraws voluntarily upon identifying a conflict. Number 2. Requested. A litigant files a plea for recusal and final decision rests with the judge. Number 5. Reassignment. Once a judge recuses, the case is sent to the Chief Justice, that is Master of Roster, for assignment to a different bench. Number 6. The doctrine of necessity is an exception. It says that a judge may still hear a matter despite a potential conflict if there is no alternative forum or judge available. Coming to the grounds of a recusal. Number 1. Personal or prior professional association with a party. Number 2. Earlier involvement as a lawyer or judge in the same matter. Number 3. Financial interest in the case outcome. Number 4. Engagement in ex parte, यानी private communication related to the case. Coming to the justification of recusal. Number 1. Preservation of public confidence in impartiality of judiciary. Number 2. Preventing prejudgment, prior advocacy conflict. Example, Justice U. Lalit recused from Ram Janmabhoomi dispute as he had previously appeared as an advocate in a related matter. Number 3. Protection, institutional integrity in politically sensitive cases. Example, Sanjeev Khanna and CJI Suryakant both recused from petitions challenging the CEC appointment law. Number 4. Upholding due process. Article 21, right to fair trial, implicitly requires an impartial adjudicator for every citizen. Number 5. Upholds judges' oath to act without fear or favor, affection or ill will under Schedule 3. Number 6. Aligns India with international norms like Bangalore Principle of Judicial Conduct 2002. Number 7. A judge who has prejudged a legal or factual issue must not decide the same matter again. Coming to the limitations and challenges of recusal. Number 1. No codified law, based on the conscience of judges, leading to opacity. Number 2. Bench hunting, forum shopping. That is, litigants can request recusal of tough judges to get a more favorable bench assigned. Number 3. Master of roster paradox. A recused CJI cannot adjudicate the case but retains roster control to decide who hears it. Number 4. Lack of transparency. Most judges recuse without providing written reasons. Number 5. Sudden recusal after a few hearing forces a de novo, that is fresh hearing, wasting judicial time. Number 6. Subjectivity of conscience. Since it is a personal decision, two judges may treat the same conflict differently, causing inconsistency. 7th. Strategic use of recusal petition by litigants to stall execution or order or final hearing. Number 8. Absence of review mechanism. There is no legal way to challenge a judge's refusal to recuse except via a review petition later. Coming to the major Supreme Court judgments. Number 1. Manak Lal versus Dr. Premchand established the real likelihood of bias test. Number 2. Ranjit Thakur versus Union of India 1987 held that test is the reasonableness of apprehension in the mind of party, not actual bias. Coming to the third, Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association 2015 clarified that pecuniary interest makes recusal automatic. Number 4. Indore Development Authority Case 2019 ruled that a judge is not disqualified from a larger bench just for passing an earlier small bench order. Coming to the way forward. Number 1. Mandatory disclosure. Judges should provide a written reason for recusal to ensure transparency. Number 2. Codify recusal standards under Article 145 or by a statute. Number 3. Pre-hearing disclosure. Conflicts should be disclosed at the admission stage to prevent delays during final hearing. Number 4. Adopting the UK's fair-minded and informed observer test, that is Porter versus McGill, for a more objective standard. Number 5. Review by a larger bench. In sensitive cases, a recusal request could be decided by a 3-judge bench instead of the concerned judge alone. Number 6. Penalty for using recusal as a tool for bench hunting. Coming to the post-retirement appointment of judges. In 2024, hours after resigning as judge of the Calcutta High Court, joined a political party and contested 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Number 2. Justice B.R. Gabai publicly pledged to refuse any post-retirement appointment from the government, arguing it is essential to maintain public confidence. Since 1950, over 40 CJI have accepted post-retirement positions in various capacities. Coming to the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy found that nearly 72% of the retired Supreme Court judges take up official assignments like tribunals, commissions, or governorship within 2 years of retirement. Over 40 central acts specifically require a retired Supreme Court or High Court judge to head bodies like NHRC, tribunals, and NCDRC. Coming to the constitutional provisions, Article 124(7), former Supreme Court judges cannot practice law in any Indian court or authority. Article 220. Retired High Court judges are prohibited from acting in any court except the Supreme Court and other High Court. Coming to the benefits of post-retirement appointments. Number 1. Utilization of expertise. As per former CJI D.Y. Chanchur, the vast experience of judges is a valuable national resource that should not be entirely discarded. Number 2. Statutory compliance. Example: Protection of Human Rights Act requires a formal CJI or Supreme Court judge to lead the NHRC. Number 3. Judicial continuity in tribunals. Judges are better equipped than bureaucrats to handle judicial functions like cross-examination and evidence. Number 4. Retired judges act as neutral and trusted members for hearing sensitive inquiry commissions. Example: Justice J.S. Verma Committee after the Nirbhaya case. Number 5. Benefit of post-retirement appointment is institutional memory. Long-serving judges help maintain consistency in how specialized law, like the IBC, are interpreted across the country. Point 6. Standardizing quasi-judicial work. Judges bring a standardized template for writing judgment to administrative bodies that might otherwise be arbitrary. Number 7. Filing vacancy gaps. They serve as ready pool of an ad hoc members for temporary commissions, saving the time required for fresh recruitment. Example: delimitation commissions. Coming to the criticism, erosion of judicial independence. The hope for a future job may subconsciously influence a judge's ruling in favor of government. Number 2. Public perceptions crisis. Example: Nomination of a former CJI to the Rajya Sabha 2020. Number 3. Violation of separation of powers. Moving from the bench to a political or executive role like governor blurs the line between the branches. Coming to the conflict of interest, judges might delay or fast track certain government cases to stay in the good books of appointing authority. Number 5. Tribunals have become retirement homes for judges rather than specialized bodies. Number 6. Inconsistent selection process. Example: 2026 search cum selection committees for tribunals have been criticized for lacking objective merit scores. Number 7. Some retired judges take on too many assignments, that is, arbitration, commission, head of body, leading to new backlogs in those bodies. Coming to the number 8, moral hazard. It encourages a culture of executive minded judges who prioritize state interests over civil liberties to secure a soft landing. Coming to the way forward, mandatory 2 year cooling off period before accepting government appointment. Number 2, increase retirement age to 70 years. Number 3, provide retired judges a pension equal to their last drawn salary to ensure financial independence. Number 4, create a judicial service commission, including the opposition leader and CJI, to make all tribunal appointments. Number 5. Adopt the UK model, where a judicial appointment commissions handles even post-retirement roles with strict transparency. Number 6. Use Article 128 Supreme Court and 224A High Court to bring retired judges back into active judiciary to clear backlogs instead of tribunals. Number 7. Transparent conflict registry. Every retired judge accepting a post must file a public declaration of all government cases they heard in the last 3 years. Coming to the lower judiciary, this is the next topic: lower judiciary. Constitutional and legal provisions. Article 220, 233 and 237, Part 6 of Constitution governs the subordinate court. Article 233. Appointment of district judges is by governor in consultation with the High Court. 235. Administrative and disciplinary control over the lower judiciary is vested in High Court. Number 4. Article 312 provides the power to create an all India judicial services via a resolution in the Rajya Sabha. Issues with the lower judiciary. Number 1. Massive case load. Total pendency of 49 million. Over 1.8 lakh cases have been pending for over 30 years. Number 2. Acute human resource gap. Nearly one-fourth of judicial posts are vacant due to slow recruitment by state PSCs. Number 3. Infrastructure deficit. Many courtrooms lack basic digital infrastructure, secure in evidence rooms, or separate facilities for women. Number 4. Case clearance rate (CCR). CCR for subordinate court is 89%. Due to CCR below 800%, cases are accumulating with which resulted in pendency. Number 5. Administrative overburden. Judges spend significant time on clerical tasks like summon tracking instead of actual adjudication. Number 6. Archaic procedural laws. Example: three adjournment rule is rarely enforced in lower courts. Number 7. Inadequate investigation. Poor quality of police charge sheet leads to prolonged trials and high acquittal rates in lower courts. Example: missing witness and forensic delays. Number 8. Digital, div- Digital divide. Rural litigants and lawyers struggle with connectivity and literacy. Number 9. Low judge to population ratio. With only 21 judges per million, the daily cause list of judges often exceeds 100 cases. 10. Number 10. Financial constraints. Example: total judicial spending remains below 1% of India's GDP. Coming to the way forward to strengthen the lower judiciary. Number 1. Create the All India Judicial Service under Article 312 to attract high quality merit based talent. Number 2. Simplify judicial workflows using process re-engineering guidelines from April 2026 conference. Example: automating summons delivery via NSTEP. Third, scale e-court phase 3 to achieve 100% paperless court by 2027. Number 4. Adopt court manager. Appoint professional managers for every court complex to handle administration, freeing judges for legal work. Number 5. Enforce the Mediation Act 2023 to divert 20 to 30% of civil commercial cases before filing. Number 6. Introduce double shift or evening courts for petty offences to clear high volume, low complexity cases. Coming to the number 7. Empower under trial review committees to meet monthly and recommend the release of eligible prisoners. Number 8. Standardize infrastructure. That is, ensure every taluka court has e-seva kendra to provide digital help to common citizen. Number 9. Economic Survey 2018-19 recommended creating Indian Courts and Tribunal Services (ICTS), which would provide critical administrative support to Indian judges. Number 11. Regular pendency audits. Conduct quarterly impact audit of long pending cases, that is 10 plus year, at the district judge level. Coming to the digitization of judiciary. In Swapnil Tripathi versus Supreme Court 2018 case, the Supreme Court affirmed that live telecast of court proceedings falls under the right to access judiciary justice as per Article 21 of the Constitution. Number 1. The Supreme Court E-Committee and Department of Justice held a national conference on judicial process re-engineering focusing on AI integration. Number 2. Several high courts, that is Delhi and Karnataka, launched AI-driven applications in early 2026 to automate surety verification, significantly accelerating bail releases. Coming to the benefits of digitization of judiciary. Number 1. Transparency. Example: automated SMS email update regarding hearing dates. Second, Reduction in pendency. Example, virtual courts reduce the burden of 10 crore petty cases. Number 3. Speedy justice delivery. Example, faster system, FASTER system to send bail orders to jail authorities. Number 4. Improved access. That is, E-Seva Kendra allows online case filing and check status locally. Number 5. Lower cost of litigation. Reduces travel cost for lawyers, witnesses and under trials. Number 6. Paperless ecology. Transitioning to digital courts 2.1 removes the need for physical case files. Number 7. Accuracy in record. Real-time AI transcription TERES ensures record accuracy. Number 8. Integration of justice system. ICJS allows a judge to see person's entire criminal history across different states instantly. Number 9. Evidence integrity. Electronic evidence stored in virtual evidence rooms is secure and protected by uh, cryptographic hashes. Coming to the steps taken. Number 1. E-Courts Mission Mode Project. Objective of strengthening the use of ICT in judicial system. It has 10 points. Number 1. Phase 3 aims at digital and paperless court by digitizing legacy and current case records. Over 660.36 crore pages digitalized. Number 2. 30 virtual courts have been established to enable online adjudication of traffic challan. Number 3. Video conferencing facilities expanded across 3,240 court complexes and 1,272 jails. Next, over 3.93 crore hearing conducted. Next, fourth, live streaming of court proceedings is operational in 11 high courts. Fifth, e-filing and e-payment system. Over 1.03 crore cases filed online. Number 6. National Judicial Data Grid provides public access to case data statistic of court across the country. The Sevas platform S3WAAS platform hosts 730 district court websites, ensuring secure and accessible web infrastructure. Next, the eCourt Service mobile app has 3.5 crore downloads, provides the lawyer and litigants relevant information about case status, cause list, etc. 48 E-Seva Kendra are functional across all High Court and 2,283 E-Seva Kendra across District Court. Number 10. Digital Court 2.1 is a customized application for paperless courts with facility of translation and transcription using AI. Number 2. The other step taken is interoperable criminal justice system. ICJS, enabling seamless data transfer among stakeholders like courts, police, and jail. Number 3. Fast and secure transmission of electronic records, that is FASTER, software for swift and secure transmission of court orders electronically. Number 4. SUVAS, that is Supreme Court Vidhik Anuvad software, translating English judgment into regional language. Fifth, NSTEP, a mobile app and web portal for the electronic service of summons using GPS and photo capture for verification. Coming to the challenges. Number 1. Digital divide. Example, frequent connectivity drops during virtual hearing. Number 2. Inadequate digital infrastructure. Lack of high-speed internet, uninterrupted power and secure data center. Number 3. Cyber security risk. Example, recent phishing attempts targeting court registries. Fourth, privacy concern in live streaming and open case data. Number 5. Resistance to change among a segment of the legal fraternity, especially senior lawyers. Number 6. Algorithmic bias. Using AI for case analysis or predictive justice can reinforce exercising existing social or legal biases. Number 7. Interoperability issues. Different high courts use different software versions, making a unified national portal difficult. Coming to the way forward, first, launch a digital literacy mission for bar associations and court staff to ensure 100% adoption of e-filing. Number 2, create a uniform digital code for all high courts to ensure software interoperability. Number 3, integrate solar power infrastructure in every taluka court to sustain digital operations. Number 4, develop a user-friendly e-court system with multilingual information and awareness. Number 5, increase investment in high-speed internet, cloud computing and bandwidth capacity. Number 6, implement robust encryption, multi-layered authentication and secure cloud storage to protect sensitive judicial data. Number 7, leveraging AI and machine learning to improve judicial efficiency and reduce pendency. Coming to the next topic, women representation in judiciary. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It should not be that women are the exception, said by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Key data: only one women judge, that is Justice B.V. Nagaratna, out of 34 sanctioned positions in Supreme Court. Across all 25 high courts, women constitute approximately 14.27% of the total judge. Third, representation in the district and subordinate courts is approximately 38% nationally. Fourth, women make up only about 15% of the 1.7 million advocates in India. Coming to the reasons for low participation. First, historic factors. Historically, legal profession and judiciary were predominantly male-dominated field. The first female judge in India's Supreme Court was appointed in 1989. Number 2, opaque collegium system. Absence of formal gender diversity criteria. Example, no woman was directly elevated from the bar to Supreme Court until Justice Indu Malhotra in 2018. Third, absence of quotas in higher judiciary. Fourth, Article 233 requires 7 years of practice as an advocate for district judge eligibility, with most states requiring a minimum age of 35. This disproportionately affects women due to family responsibilities. Number 5. The leaking pipeline. Many women leave litigation mid-career due to lack of institutional support for work-life balance. Number 6. The old boys club atmosphere in bar association often excludes women from critical informal networking. Number 7. Barriers to entry. Women encounter entry barriers in law due to education access and recruitment biases. Only 15.3% of lawyers enrolled in India are women. Number 8. Frequent transfers conflict with women roles as primary family caregivers. Number 9. Limited access to influential networks and mentors hinders advancement in the legal profession. Number 10. Inadequate infrastructure from toilets to maternity leave lead to high attrition among women. Coming to the need for women representation. Number 1. Expanded jurisprudence. Women judges bring unique lived experiences that push the boundaries of law and social justice. Number 2. Diverse perspective. Gender diverse judicial panels in India lead to more balanced judgment. Example, in Sabrimala judgment, Justice Indu Malhotra dissented. Number 3. Gender sensitivity. Female judges in India are more likely to address gender specific issues and apply gender sensitive interpretation of the law. Number 4. Humanizing justice. They often incorporate an ethics of care alongside traditional rationality, making justice more empathetic. Example, rulings on workplace harassment and maternity benefits. Number 5. Role model. Justice Fatima Bibi's appointment as the first female Supreme Court judge in 1989 inspired many women to pursue legal careers. Number 6. As per the first female federal court justice of the USA, Sandra Day O'Connor, argued that it enriches judicial decision making and enhances the legitimacy of the judiciary. Seventh, in empowering litigants, women survivors of violence feel more comfortable testifying and seeking justice in female-led courtrooms. Number 8, institutional reforms. Women judges prioritize infrastructure reforms like creches and clean toilets that benefit all court staff. Coming to the way forward, first, amend the memorandum of procedure to include gender diversity as a mandatory parameter for judicial elevation. Number two, 33% reservation for women in lower judiciary across all states to build a strong pipeline. Number three, conduct mandatory gender sensitive audit of all court complexes. Number four, establish a national judicial mentorship program to support women lawyers through the senior advocate designation process. Number 5, family sensitive transfer rules to prevent mid career resignation of women's office judicial officers. Number 6, mandate the establishment of fully funded creches in every district court and high court complex. Number 7, sensitization training, annual unconscious bias training for all judges and bar members. Number 8, Bar Council should actively recruit and support women from marginalized and rural backgrounds to ensure intersectional diversity. Um, Coming to the a private members bill on judicial diversity was introduced in Rajya Sabha by MP P. Wilson. Key data points on judicial diversity. SC, ST, OBC together account for less than 20%. Only 3% of High Court judges belong to SC, ST communities. Women 14% in High Court. Next, religious minorities account for less than 5% of appointments in last 6 years. Coming to the key provisions of the bill, amends Article 124 and 217, that is due representation for SC, ST, OBC, women and minorities in proportion to the population. Second, bifurcation of the Supreme Court separates the Supreme Court into constitutional bench exclusively in Delhi for matters of national importance and regional benches for routine appeals. Third, proposes establishment of permanent regional appellate benches in New Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, Chennai to handle regular appellate matters. Next point, strict appointment timeline of maximum of 90 days to prevent pocket vetoes. Last point, criteria for selection. Require the collegium to explicitly document and prioritize social and demographic diversity as a selection criterion. Coming to the master of roster debate, why is it in news? First, Supreme Court overriding High Court Chief Justice roster powers 2025. Supreme Court directed Allahabad High Court judge not to be given criminal roster, provoking High Court bar's constitutional objection. Second, constitutional paradox. Chief Justice of India Surya Kant recused from CEC appointment case, yet directed bench composition. Third, recently Nepal abolished MOR after the Chief Justice misused it. What is Master of Roster? It is an administrative power that designates the Chief Justice of Supreme Court or High Court as the sole authority to form benches, assign cases, and assign special benches. That is, form benches he has to decide which judge will sit together. Example, 2 judge bench or 3 judge bench. Assign cases will mean that determine which specific case will be heard by which bench, and special benches, that is, constitute larger constitutional benches for matters of grave public importance. Coming to the significance of master of the roster, first, ensures efficient judicial administration. MOR enables systemic case allocation. Second, enables subject matter expertise based allocation, improves constitutional adjudication quality and consistency. Number 3, prevents bench shopping by litigants and protects judicial neutrality. Number 4, enables urgent suo motu action on national issues. Example, CJI Ramanna used MOR to constitute a special bench examining oxygen shortage during COVID-19 crisis 2021. Number 5. Institutionalizes CJI's constitutional role as administrative head. Article 124. Coming to the major criticism. First, concentration of power in CJI can lead to administrative autocracy within the judiciary. Number 2. Perception of bias. Example, 2018 press conference by four senior most judges highlighted concerns over the selective assignment of cases. Number 3. Lack of transparency. No written reason given for allocation of cases.